Good morning to the stockholders, officers, and directors of the company. I am Lucio C. Tan III, President and Chief Operating Officer of LT Group, Inc. I have been requested by the Chairman, Dr. Lucio C. Tan, to chair the meeting this morning. As it is now 10 o'clock in the morning, I hereby call the annual stockholders meeting of LT Group, Inc. to order. As with the previous years, this meeting is being convened via remote communication through the Zoom webinar application and is being recorded in compliance with the requirements of the SEC. Before we begin the meeting proper, let me acknowledge the presence of the directors of the corporation in this meeting. Apart from myself, joining us in this meeting this morning are our Chairman, Dr. Lucio C. Tan, Ms. Carmen K. Tan, Ms. Carlu T. Sai, Mr. Michael G. Tan, Ms. Vivian K. Tan, Ms. Juanita T. Tan Lee, Mr. Jonep G. Kua, Ms. Mary G. Nang, Attorney Raul M. Leopando, and Mr. Wuchong I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our directors and stockholders present at today's meeting. Let us now proceed with the meeting proper. May we ask our Corporate Secretary, Attorney Cecilia Pesaico, to please show proof that the stockholders were duly notified of this meeting.
Good morning, Mr. President, and to our stockholders. As required by the Securities Regulation Code and in compliance with the revised Corporation Code and the requirements of the SEC, the notice for today's meeting was published in the business section of two newspapers of general circulation, namely the Philippine Daily Inquirer and the Philippine Star in print and online format for 2 consecutive days. As recommended by the Corporation Code of Corporate Governance for publicly listed companies, the notice was last published on April 8, 2026, which is at least 28 days prior to today's meeting. Affidavits of publication were executed by both the Philippine Daily Inquirer and the Philippine Star Daily, which I am hereby submitting for the record. Additionally, the notice for this meeting was posted on the company's website at www.ltg.com.ph and on the company's PSE Edge profile. With that, I therefore certify that our shareholders were duly notified.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. We now move on to the certification of quorum. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum for today's meeting?
Yes, Mr. President. As stated in the guidelines for the conduct of today's virtual meeting, the last day of registration for today's meeting was on April 24, 2026. Based on our tally of those who successfully registered online and the validated proxies and powers of attorney on hand, the number of shareholders present in person and represented by proxy are shown on the screen. I therefore certify as to the existence of a quorum for the valid transaction of business at today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before we proceed any further, Madam Secretary, can you briefly run through the rules for the conduct of and the voting procedure for our meeting today?
Yes, Mr. President. The voting rights of each stockholder and the requirements and procedure for participation and voting through remote communication were set out in the company's definitive information statement. In summary, the voting procedure and conduct of the meeting are as follows. First, stockholders who have successfully completed the registration and verification procedure on or before April 24, 2026 may participate in today's virtual meeting and shall be considered present for quorum purposes. Second, stockholders had until April 28, 2026 to send questions on the agenda matters via email at webinars ltg.com.ph. For the orderly conduct of today's business, these questions will be addressed later in the meeting. Questions received after the deadline have been referred to the company's investor relations officer and will be responded to via email. The matters submitted for voting at today's meeting are as follows. A. Approval of the minutes of the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting. B. Approval of the management report and the audited financial statements. C. Ratification of all acts, transactions, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and Management since 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting. D. Election of directors. And E. The appointment of the external auditor. Voting in absentia is recognized for this virtual meeting. Stockholders should have cast their votes by email at webinars@ltg.com.ph no later than April 28, 2026 by sending a completed ballot or proxy. Validation of proxies and tabulation of votes were completed on April 29, 2026. Lastly, we wish to remind the stockholders that this virtual meeting is being recorded in video and audio format in compliance with the requirements of the Securities and Exchange Commission. That is all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Let us now proceed with the main agenda for today's meeting. The first item in the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of the stockholders. Our last annual stockholders meeting was held on May 7, 2025, and the matters approved in that meeting were summarized in the information statement. Madam Corporate Secretary, were the stockholders apprised of this item in the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. A copy of the minutes of the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting was posted on the company's website. The matters approved in the last stockholders meeting were provided under Item 15 of the information statement, which was uploaded to the company's website and PSE Edge profile. It is proposed that in the interest of time, we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting and approve the minutes as appearing in the company's records.
The proposal is noted. Before we tally the votes on this item, may we know from the Corporate Secretary whether we received any inquiries on this matter?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted via email regarding this matter.
Madam Corporate Secretary, may we know the tally of votes on this matter?
Mr. President, the tally of votes and validated proxies is shown on screen. Based on the total votes received, more than majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting approved the minutes of the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting held on May 7, 2025.
Based on the report of the Corporate Secretary, the minutes of the 2025 Annual Stockholders Meeting held on May 7, 2025 is hereby noted. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. Before we move on to the next agenda, our chairman would like to say a few words. To our shareholders, we are pleased to report that LT Group Inc. once again delivered a year of strong results. In 2025, consolidated revenues reached 132.78 billion pesos, resulting in an attributable net income of 30.98 billion pesos, surpassing prior year levels. Our subsidiaries likewise recorded mixed but overall resilient performance, with Philippine National Bank increasing by 20%, Tanduay by 45%, Asia Brewery by 4%, and Eaton by 261%, while Fortune Tobacco posted a 12% decrease year-on-year. These results reflect the diligence and dedication of our people, the strength of our diversified portfolio, and the collective effort that continues to drive LTG forward. While our subsidiaries delivered solid performance in 2025, we approach 2026 with caution, recognizing that developments in other parts of the world may affect the operating environment. Ongoing geopolitical tensions, including the conflict in the Middle East, have prompted our subsidiaries to review and assess potential risks and to ensure that adequate resources are in place to support the achievement of their plans, goals, and budgets. Elevated oil prices may translate to higher operating costs and reduce consumer purchasing power across many economies. The company acknowledges that these factors may ultimately impact overall financial performance. While we foresaw difficult days ahead, we rely on the dedication, skill, and professionalism of our people and their drive for achievement, from production floors and offices to branches and field operations to mitigate and cushion the effects of war. In 2025, we focus on strengthening leadership, enhancing workplace safety, and supporting employee engagement and well-being. At the same time, we maintain rigorous governance and risk oversight, ensuring accountability and transparency throughout the group. Across our businesses in banking, beverages, real estate, manufacturing, and tobacco, we continue to foster synergy by bringing together the strengths of each company. This enables us to create greater value as a group than any single entity could achieve on its own. In parallel, we advance initiatives in environmental responsibility, inclusive growth, and workforce well-being, reinforcing our belief that long-term value creation is closely linked to the health of the communities, ecosystems, and institutions we serve. Looking ahead, LTG will continue to strengthen its core business, deepen collaboration across its companies, advance sustainability efforts, and build the capabilities needed to navigate an increasingly complex environment. The momentum we carry is collective, grounded in shared effort, guided by responsibility, and anchored in disciplined execution. We extend our sincere appreciation to our shareholders for their trust, to the board of directors for their guidance, and to our employees and partners for their continued commitment. Together, we look forward to sustaining meaningful progress and creating new possibilities for generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the management report for the fiscal year 2025. Dear shareholders, LTG continued to deliver strong financial and operational results in 2025, driven by disciplined execution, the strength of our diversified business, and a clear focus on risk mitigation and management. At the same time, we remain committed to ensuring the sustainability of our resources. This performance reflects the dedication and hard work of our officers, employees, and partners whose collective efforts translated momentum into measurable growth and progress across our businesses. Allow me now to share with you the results of these efforts. In 2025, LT Group recorded consolidated revenues of 132.78 billion pesos and an attributable net income of 30.98 billion pesos, a 7% increase from 2024 and our fourth consecutive year of record earnings. Dividends totaled 13.53 billion pesos or 1.25 pesos per share, representing a 46.8% payout rate. We ended the year with 2.67 billion pesos in cash at the parent level. Debt to equity ratio was 3.14 to 1 with the bank and 0.09 to 1 without the bank. Return on equity stood at 12.3%, while EBITDA margin reached 43.7%, reflecting disciplined capital management and sustained profitability. Philippine National Bank remained a key driver of the group's performance, accounting for 14.26 billion pesos, or 46% of total attributable income. Net income grew 20% to 25.34 billion pesos, supported by higher net interest income and service fees alongside improved credit quality. This underscores the bank's scale, resilience, and consistent earnings contribution. Fortune Tobacco Corporation and PMFTC delivered 11.24 billion pesos, or 36% of total attributable net income. PMFTC increased cigarette volume by 4% to 22 billion sticks and expanded market share to 47.3%, with equity in net earnings reaching 8.73 billion pesos, up 15%. This highlights the tobacco segment's ability to sustain growth and profitability amidst evolving market conditions. Tanduay Distillers Inc. recorded net income of 3.12 billion pesos, up 45%, and marking its sixth consecutive record year. Gross margins improved to 17%, while national market share rose to 39.5%, with continued leadership in Visayas and Mindanao. These results reinforce Tanduay's strong market position and effective cost and pricing strategies. Asia Brewery Inc. delivered a net income of 877 million pesos with gross margin at 24%. Cobra Energy Drinks maintained a 45% market share, while Absolute and Summit held a combined 15% share in bottled water. This reflects continued operational discipline and stable positioning across key beverage segments. Eaton Property Philippines, Inc. recorded a net income of 765 million pesos, a strong recovery from 2024. Real estate sales grew by 46% to 731 million pesos, supported by key developments. The company now has a leasable portfolio of 262,800 square meters. This reflects improving demand and positions Eaton for continued growth. Other subsidiaries contributed a combined 739 million pesos, providing steady and diversified support to the group's overall performance. In 2025, responsible growth remained at the core of our approach. We focused on strengthening collaboration across our businesses and leveraging shared insights to enhance decision-making and operational efficiency. Progress in environmental stewardship, workforce development, and community engagement advanced steadily, reflecting our belief that sustainable success depends on the well-being of the people, natural systems, and institutions connected to our operations. These achievements are a testament to the dedication and commitment of our teams, reminding us that lasting impact is built through disciplined effort, shared responsibility, and the pursuit of value that extends beyond financial performance. As part of this commitment, total energy consumption reached 2,045,996.25 gigajoules, while our carbon footprint totaled 234,019.73 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, establishing a baseline to guide sustainability priorities and inform risk management and operational planning. Our 13,063 employees continue to deliver with expertise and professionalism. Training initiatives increased participation by 16.82%, while safety programs covered 95.76% of the workforce, equivalent to 12,509 employees, supporting a capable and safe organization. Governance remains a cornerstone of our operations, with board independence at 36% and 63% of directors engaged in sustainability and risk oversight. Anti-corruption training reached 90.71% of employees, reinforcing a culture of accountability and integrity. Community investments reached 77.81 million pesos, benefiting 14,758 individuals through programs in education, healthcare, livelihood, and environmental initiatives. In addition, 5.34% of employees participated in volunteer programs, representing 697 individuals. Here is a short video on the operating highlights of the company in 2025. Looking ahead to 2026, we will continue strengthening our core businesses, advancing cross-company initiatives, accelerating digital transformation, deepening sustainability integration, and strengthening our talent pipeline. Our focus remains on disciplined execution, prudent risk management, and delivering sustainable long-term value. To our stakeholders, shareholders, board members, employees, partners, and communities, thank you for your continued trust and support. Together, we will continue to build on this momentum as we continue driving new possibilities and deliver meaningful progress. Madam Corporate Secretary, are there any other matters which the stockholders must be informed of?
Mr. President, in compliance with the revised corporation code, the stockholders must be informed of the total compensation received by each of the directors during the past year. Based on the report from the Chief Financial Officer, the following are the individual compensation of the members of our Board of Directors. Also, for the record, the performance evaluation and attendance record of the Board of Directors for 2025 to 2026 are set out in the information statement and management report.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Did we receive inquiries regarding our management report?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Since there are no questions, let us proceed to approve the management report as reflected in the annual report, together with the audited financial statements of the company for the year 2025. You have just heard the President's report on the results of the company's operations, which is also reflected in the audited financial statements and the annual report, copies of which were made available to the stockholders via the company's website and PSE Edge profile. Madam Corporate Secretary, kindly present the proposed resolution and report on the tally of votes for this item in the agenda.
Mr. President, on the screen is the proposed resolution for this matter. The tally of votes and validated proxies is also on screen. Based on the total votes received, more than majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of this matter.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With stockholders owning at least the majority of the outstanding shares present voting in favor of the matter, the management report, as reflected in the annual report, together with the audited financial statements for the period ending December 31, 2025, is hereby noted and approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the ratification of all the acts, proceedings, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and management of the company from the date of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present, as reflected in the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors. A summary of these acts, proceedings, and resolutions was included in the information statement. These acts, proceedings, and resolutions were discussed and approved in the meetings of the board and its committees and are covered by minutes of the meetings which are on file with the Office of the Corporate Secretary. These minutes are available for inspection upon the request of any stockholder. Before we tally the votes on this item, may we know from the Corporate Secretary whether we received any inquiries on this matter?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Since there are no queries, Madam Corporate Secretary, kindly present the proposed resolution for this item.
Mr. President, the proposed resolution for this matter is shown on the screen. We have also tallied and validated the following votes cast. Based on the total votes received, more than majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of approving all the legal acts, resolutions, and proceedings of the board of directors and the management of the company from the time of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present date.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With stockholders owning at least the majority of the outstanding shares present voting in favor of the matter, all of the acts, proceedings, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and management from the date of the last annual stockholders meeting up to the present, as reflected in the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors, are hereby approved, confirmed, and ratified. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the election of directors for the year 2026 to 2027. May we request the Corporate Secretary to report on the nominees for directors for 2026 to 2027?
Mr. President, I am pleased to report that in the meeting held on February 13, 2026, the Nomination Committee approved the nomination of the following 11 individuals as directors of the company for the year 2026 to 2027. Mr. Lucio C. Tan, Ms. Carmen K. Tan, Mr. Lucio C. Tan III, Ms. Carlu Tisay, Mr. Michael G. Tan, Ms. Vivian K. Tan, Ms. Juanita T. Tanley, Mr. Johnny G. Kua, Ms. Mary G. Nang, Mr. Raul M. Leopando, and Mr. Wuchung Nominated as independent directors are the following: Ms. Mary G. Nang, Mr. Johnny G. Kua, Mr. Raul M. Leopando, and Mr. Wuchung The profiles and business experiences of all the nominees are set out in Item 5 of the information statement.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. Were there any questions regarding the nominees to the Board of Directors?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
Can we now hear a report from the Corporate Secretary regarding the votes on this item in the agenda?
Mr. President, we have tallied the ballots and the proxies received. The tally of votes is shown on the screen. Considering, however, there are only 11 nominees for the 11 seats in the board, all the nominees are effectively elected as directors of the corporation for the year 2026 to 2027. Mr. President, the resolution regarding this matter is also shown on the screen.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. There being only 11 nominees and all the nominees having received votes in their favor, I hereby declare the 11 nominees as the duly elected directors of the company for 2026 to 2027. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. The next item in the agenda is the appointment of the company's external auditor. May we request the chairman of the audit committee, Mr. Jonip G. Kua, to report on the nominated external auditor for 2026 to 2027 as approved by our audit committee?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to the stockholders, officers, and directors of the company. Under the Manual of Corporate Governance, the Audit Committee is tasked to evaluate and recommend the external auditor to be appointed for the company. The committee's evaluation is thereafter endorsed to the Board of Directors and presented to the stockholders for approval. The Audit Committee is pleased to report that after careful deliberation and evaluation of the performance of the accounting firm of Sisip Gores Velayo and Company, or SGV and Company, for the past fiscal year, and considering the quality of its audit work, the competitiveness of its fees, and its reputation, we have endorsed to the board its reappointment as external auditor of the company for the year 2026. The new audit partner in charge is Mr. Martin Guantes. The appointment of SGV and Company was approved by the Board of Directors last February 16, 2026, and is now being presented for ratification of the stockholders.
Thank you, Mr. Kua. Can we inquire from the Corporate Secretary whether there were any queries regarding the nominated external auditor?
Mr. President, there were no questions submitted online regarding this matter.
There being no questions, may we request the Corporate Secretary to present the proposed resolution for this item and report on the tally of votes?
Mr. President, the proposed resolution on the appointment of SGV and Company as external auditor of the company for the ensuing year is shown on the screen. The tally of votes and validated proxies for this matter is likewise shown on the screen. Based on the total votes received, more than majority of the outstanding shares of the company represented in this meeting voted in favor of the appointment of SGV and Company as external auditor of the company for the year 2026 to 2027.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Secretary. With stockholders owning at least the majority of the outstanding shares present in this meeting voting in favor of the matter, the appointment of CSIP Goris Valayo & Co. as external auditor of the company for the year 2026 is hereby approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, let the minutes reflect the tally of votes on this matter. I believe we have discussed all the items in our agenda. May we request from the Corporate Secretary if there are any other inquiries received from the stockholders?
Mr. President, there were no additional questions submitted online.
Since we have no other matters to discuss at today's meeting, this meeting is hereby adjourned. On behalf of LT Group Inc., thank you for your continuous support. We hope to see you again in our next annual stockholders meeting.